regenerative arts and culture, basically.
Exactly.
Give a platform to it. Going in, PR live. Live to the whole world. Going in live.
1328, we activate regenerative consciousness. 1328, 13 moons and 28 days, yeah. 1328, we activate regenerative consciousness. 1328,
So we have the ability to be the media that we actually want to see, what we actually want to amplify or create in the world.
Bring forth those frequencies. Bring forward great minds and a lot of solutions.
As we really look at, how do we get where we are and where do we want to go from here? Where do we really see ourselves going?
It's a mantra or prayer that is, if you can love enough and trust enough and know enough, then God will work wonders in you, through you. Then the humorous side of things is why not? You're not wrong, you're not who you are.
All right out there. Welcome to PR1328 Live. My name is Mikuak Rai, your host on this mission of planet restoration together. So thank you all for tuning in this afternoon from wherever you are. We're out here in Los Angeles. Some of us are in Atlanta. We have a wonderful guest tuning in from the Yucatan down in Mexico. So we're super excited for today's show. It's such a climax for what has been a 4-week series for us about activating regenerative culture. 1 second, I'm seeing, is that for me to share the link? Okay. We have our producer here. I'm getting messages, just making sure it's not for me. But thanks for rolling with us. It's a very organic production. We really appreciate your patience and your love. And we know we got started a little bit late today, but are we ever really late? Everything is always on time. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And speaking of being on time, we want to bring into scope really the awareness of natural time. We like to do this in our broadcast and come into an understanding as we go ahead and bring this track down, but get into a comprehension on the frequencies of natural time. So in light of that, today is quite an auspicious day for myself personally, because today actually represents my own personal galactic signature. And we're going to show on the screen what that actually looks like for folks out there who might not be familiar with that necessarily. And here we go. Today is Kin 126, the White Solar World Bridger. I pulse in order to equalize, realizing opportunity. I seal the store of death with the solar tone of intention. I am guided by the power of spirit. And as we've been talking about, these frequencies are tracking a natural time calendar. In particular, this calendar is composed of 260 different signatures, or 260 days, or frequencies, we could even say. And in light of that, every frequency is embodying or part of a process called a wave spell. So we're currently in what's known as the white magnetic mirror wave spell. And as we can see in the 9th position here, you find the World Bridger glyph, the one that's at the center of the galactic signature today. So it's in the 9th position of the wave spell, and it represents the solar tone of intention, which is a very powerful tone for me. And obviously, we are embodying intention and holding this kind of a space today. One thing also to note is where the location of this particular sequence of days shows up in the Zolkin. And we're actually in a very special sequence now. As of the self-existing dragon, if you look at the top of the 7th column, we entered what's called the mystic column. And last show, Bilal was talking about how my birthday and his birthday both show up in the mystic column. And here we are in the current year where we're in that mystic column right now. You can see the area highlighted in magenta showing us where we are. And if we look at the basically the 9th tone in this sequence of days, it's the 6th day in that 7th column. That's where we are today. So with that said, we'll get into some more of this dynamic and this comprehension as we move into the show. And I want to go ahead and begin to bring some of our co-hosts and folks on the scene. We have some beautiful folks with us today. So let's see who is in the building. Thank you for bearing with me as we get everybody lined up in position, ready for the vibes. So I want to welcome you, brothers, into the mix. We are live and direct, and hopefully you can hear me. Go ahead and talk so I can hear you back. Okay, perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. So we have Brother Taj, Abdul Samad in the house. We want to say big up, represent. Thanks for being here. What's happening with you, brother?
Yes, and
Go ahead, Bilal.
no, I was just gonna say yes. Bilal Samadhi in the party.
Bilal Samadhi in the potty. That sounds.
You know what? Put an R in there.
yeah, you know. That's yeah.
Not on the party.
In the party.
In the party.
Oh my goodness, these guys.
That's hilarious.
Never a dull moment. I mean, hey, we are going to talk about some shit today, though. Let's keep it real. We're going to talk about some holy business. Holy business. Some people might even go so far as to say holy shit. So with that in mind, I'm just excited for you all to be here. It is my Galactic Return today. It's an auspicious day. We each have that.
Congratulations, great brother.
I received that. I appreciate love that. And I also want to acknowledge it was just Bilal's birthday a couple of days ago as well. So he's now stepping in his yellow resonant seed year. And so we want to encourage folks to learn more about the language we're talking about. They can visit 13moon.com, where they can decode their own birth date right now. That's one of our allies and supporters out here with the calendar change movement, but helping people become aware of their respective galactic signatures. And the both of you are actually wizards according to your galactic signature. So that's always an interesting time when we can see the people who actually embody the same tribe as us. And in this case, you all also embody 2 different tones. So I know, Taj, you're a white lunar wizard. Yeah. Right. And Bilal, you're the white self-existing wizard. And then we each go through what our respective cycle may be for the current year we embody, but we understand that it repeats itself every 52 years. In other words, for those listening, I won't actually be the white solar world bridger again on my birthday until I turn 52. And we understand that 52-year cycle is called the cycle of becoming. So it's actually this idea that we're becoming elders, we're becoming fully embodied into our purpose. And then as we hit that 52-year marker, we begin a new cycle of returning. So in other words, we on the return path to the stars, some might even say, or on return to the cosmic origin and source from whence we came. So you have the cycle of becoming 52 years, the cycle of returning 52 years. Put them together and you actually have the Venus round, or the great round of 104 years of Venus itself, which is a remarkable observation by the traditional wisdom keepers such as the Maya, the Olmec, Dogon, and other tribes and traditions around the world. Bilal, what's up, man?
Yeah.
104.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's like a cycle of initiation, you know, and I've heard that even in Kemet, they would put them through initiation for about that amount of time before,
Okay.
you know, they enter like the priesthood or whatever, something like that. So, yeah,
Okay.
levels
Okay.
of initiation.
Levels of initiation. So Taj, what's been going on with you, man? We haven't seen you in a while. Happy to see you out here on
Yeah,
this platform. I know you've been keeping busy though. I've been seeing you, on the interwebs and everything, holding court, holding divine space, having some powerful conversations.
yeah. I've been really just diversifying. I got a few things kind of going on at the same time, spinning plates with my hands and my feet, So
That's a skill.
um
You got it.
yeah, but all is well, man. The family is good. My girls are doing great. My eldest daughter, she's in Gambia right now, so she's having a
Okay.
tremendous, beautiful experience over there.
Wow.
And yeah, man, everything is great, man. I'm feeling good. My health and my mental clarity is great.
Mm.
I've just been spending time like developing my businesses. I just started a show on Instagram with a sister by the name of Star, and for the most part, we're talking about relationships, all kinds of relationships.
Mm.
Um, we're talking about self awareness and just kind of you know really cultivating a conversation around relationship and what relationship looks like in this 21st century, you
Mm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of rethinking old, concepts from the old school of thought and
Yeah.
kind of upgrading and updating, uh, you know, new concepts and integrating new concepts into the mix so that we can upgrade our technology and our perspective,
Mm.
for the now time
Hey.
and our current circumstances, while
Hey.
still anchoring ourselves in ancient indigenous wisdom at the
Yeah.
same time and traditions that are the bedrock of our relating as human beings from the
Mm.
dawn of time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I've had a chance to catch your show with Star, and I love it every time. You definitely go on the in-depth with the relationships and dating, kind of now time, what the dynamics are. And then I notice also you all talk quite a bit about some of the technologies like cryptocurrency and some of the new modalities that are emerging that we want to become more aware of and astute with as communities, as individuals, obviously. So I really have appreciated a lot of the deep dive you all go into as it relates to some of that. I mean, I'm learning a lot about the crypto space and, understanding distributed ledger technology and what that can actually mean as solutions for society, for these systems that we're transitioning. So I really appreciate that. And I want to encourage folks to follow Taj on Instagram. You can see his address right there on the screen to tune into his show. And you guys are live, what is it, on Wednesday evenings at around 9 o'clock East Coast?
Yeah. Wednesday evenings at 9-ish. So
9-ish.
yeah,
Kind of like
Eastern
our
time.
show
Yeah,
is 6-ish today.
exactly. Yep.
Working. We love the ish though, and we're talking about the ish today. That's kind of the point. Because again, there's some interesting constraints when we talk about like the tick-tock clock and things like that. When you really think about that,
Mhm.
we're getting out of the constraints of these consciousness locks. We're actually
Right.
unlocking these constraints in many ways. There's a lot of that energy coming in, especially in our preparation for the upcoming Earth Day event. We've been getting a lot of support and knowledge and awareness and real elevation from people who are here to really bust systems as we've known them. The Pleiadians in the Barbara Marciniak books, they refer to those of us who've incarnated at this time with that broader galactic awareness as systems busters. And so
Right.
we're actually, through our actions, our art, our creativity, showing up in our capacity, we're here to actually help open the door to something completely new and different, that at the same time, as you said, is actually true to our roots, especially when we begin to understand our star roots, not just the earth roots, but then the star roots as well. There's a lot of that intersection happening right now.
Absolutely. And when we're talking about the Ish, which is also the name of my galactic signature, Ish.
Yeah. Bilal too. Yeah. We got the lunar Ish right here. Got the self-existing Ish. You are in the party, Bilal.
You are in the party, with the Ish.
That's facts.
And so the way that I kind of see that is, in relating to natural time and shifting our awareness from, into natural time is kind of shifting our awareness from the particle to the wave, and kind of moving into that state of flux and allowing for intuition and, synchronization to kind of to be factored into the equation as well,
all day. Well, check this out. As we love to amplify regenerative arts and culture, that's the mission of Planet Restoration, PR1328. One of the things that's come through in our collaboration creatively over the past several months is a project we did around December, around the Great Conjunction, when Bilal and I were doing some real woodshedding creatively, kind of preparing for this time now, in fact, but we were guided to do a project called Great Conjunction Serious Codes. Folks can find the project in full on our YouTube channel. But as we're here together today, I wanted to go ahead and pull up one of those songs that you actually appear on, Brother Taj. And I think it kind of sets the tone for what's next with our guest today. We're super excited to bring her in the conversation, but certainly wanted to give people a vibe for some of the creative side that you all as brothers have possessed a long, long time. And I've had the pleasure of collaborating together with you in different instances. So since you're on the show today, it's really fitting that we're able to share some of the stuff we've done musically with this one in particular from the most recent project, Serious Codes, the Great Conjunction Project. Again, Planet Restoration, youtube.com/Planet Restoration. They can find the whole project there for their listening pleasure. Also, we're on SoundCloud. We're on Bandcamp. If you look up Planet Restoration on both of those platforms. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and play a song called Celestial Waters. And then we'll come back in and we'll connect with our guest and thank her for her patience and presence on this call today as well. So, Bilal, you have any words you want to offer as we move in this?
Yes, I'll just tie it in just to say, in the arts, of course, we work with, the elements, the natural elements, earth, wind, water, fire. So, on this episode, we're bringing in the fire element. So we also have to speak to the celestial waters, which not only deals with the water element, also deals with the influx of energy coming in from the center of the galaxy right now. So just want to tie all of that in, on the way to this tune. That's just the grounds for, and also just want to throw in the serious codes are on our YouTube channel, Planet Restoration /YouTube, right? And they're based on codes, that mathematical codes surrounding the evolving of Sirius, the cycle. Okay, so it's something that you want to get in tune with, definitely. And
absolutely,
if you want to find it, that's where you can find it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll also do a further exploration of the codes for folks in the future. So when they're hearing the music, they're feeling the vibe, they do understand a little bit more comprehensively actually how we arrive at these musical notes to build these compositions and kind of tune into the frequencies as they want to be expressed. So yeah, like you were saying though, it's somewhat an emission of the plasmic energy that Sirius has been sending into our solar system that even causes us to exist. So these are really interesting light packets, we might call it, that catalyze our own evolution, our own growth as a planet, but also individually as embodied souls. So check the sound vibration.
And which Agnihotra deals with plasmas as well.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into all that.
So we'll get into that.
We'll definitely get into all that.
Like a bow.
Like a bow. But give thanks to y'all out there listening. PR1328, Bilal Samadhi, Taj Abdul Samad. This is Celestial Waters from the Sirius Codes, the Great Conjunction Project. Give thanks.
We also talk about time shifters. So we are not just moving in space, but we are evolving in time. We are a part of a larger plan of cosmic evolution.
I am one with the earth and myself are one mind.
Remember this book of remembrance, buried there within your heart, deep. Galactic hierarchy, tap you into samadhi. Press the key frequency, you'll see it speak. All the hard work you were doing, still return to the center where the light is pure, always pure. Sacred divine perfection of the universe. From the heart of the mother, serving them all of the celestial waters, yeah. We're a part of the stars made of stardust. Pour upon us.
Hyperplasmic illumination, future frequency, universal cosmic creation. Love's the master key. I am one with the earth and myself are one mind. Crystalline in this heart of mine.
Let's traveling. Child creation got me marveling. At the core, there's a light from south to north to they combine. Step into something realign. Shine in the serious beast aside. Hey.
We're also moving as a trajectory in time, an evolving celestial body moving in a trajectory of time.
Check, 1, 2, yeah. Check, 1, 2, yeah.
Celestial family, root of humanity, galactic royalty, yeah. We thrive in unity, it's you and me, I see, reflected divinity. Oh yeah. Yeah, we come from the stars and we're meant to live in the garden. Giving love from the heart and my tribe will answer the calling. Yeah, we come from the stars and we're meant to live in the garden. Giving love from the heart and my tribe will answer the calling. From the heart of the mother, serving them all of the celestial waters, yeah. Synthesize and synchronize, we'll harmonize our love.
Yes, indeed, brothers. So that's just a taste of the serious codes. There's some real vibration in there. You know, we invite people to tune into that. Check it out on our YouTube channel, Planet Restoration, on youtube.com/Planet Restoration, all one word. And they'll find the 7-song EP there under the playlist Serious Codes. So enjoy that for sure. And Bilal, I got a special message from our producer dropping in real quick. Here we go. Ishel Esta in the house. What's the special message, Ishel? Turn your mic on.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
B, your birthday gift from Shanti Villa, shout out to them right now, is sending you your dung.
Woo! Thank you.
It's happening. Your gift is
He's
on its
really
way.
in the party now.
You know what I'm saying? I get my each together.
He's really in the party now. Yep.
All right. Happy blessed birthlight, brother. You can burn fire.
Hey, that's the best. That's the best gift I could imagine.
Hey,
Yep.
a box of shit.
Send me some ish.
Exactly.
No, it's beautiful. We
To
make light of
each
it.
his
But
own.
to each his own. There's so many ways we can
Each
continue
his
to
own.
bust these cosmic jokes.
E-shell dropping out.
The E-shell. There we go. Okay. Let's
The
say
synchronicity is
Thanks,
just on
sister.
point today.
all right. Blessed love. So I think we've given some teasers here and there. We're getting an idea that we're being joined by a very special guest. I'm going to cue her up here in this moment. I want to bring her on in a special way. Powerful sisterin who, I had the pleasure of meeting several years ago in Washington, D.C., and I was telling her the other day, and we, kind of recalling that I met her. It must have been 2004. She's been doing this important work for a long time, but I met her in 2004 at an open mic in Washington, D.C., where our brother Kenny Allen, shout out to Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, Kenny Allen out there doing important work, but he was doing a performance, and she came on the mic and said, "Hey, anybody interested in learning about this thing I'm doing? It's a meditation," I think is how she framed it. And I was like, "Oh, meditation, I want to learn. Sign me up." And I went to her table and I said, "Hey, initiate me. Let me know what's going on." And that was the rest of the story. Frankly, it just literally ignited a whole new trajectory in my life, as a matter of fact. So I give thanks for that. And we're going to bring her on right now. Without further ado or delay, our sister Sonita Singh, live and direct here, Planet Restoration. Welcome, family.
Om Shri.
Om Shri, yes. Let me tee this up a little bit because we're all friends here, but for the audience out there that doesn't necessarily know about you specifically, I want to let folks know that you are a doctor. Let's be specific. I didn't put it on the lower third, but with the science and the research you've done, the work you've put in, it's important that we definitely big that up. PhD in International Development, Policy and Economics. You got an MPH in International Health and Development. You got your bachelor's degree in cellular and molecular biology and pre-medicine, and a minor in African and diaspora studies. And I have to say, and I could list the schools if we want to, Tulane University School of Law, these are reputable institutions. A lot of Tulane here, lots of Tulane going on. You spend a lot of time in Tulane. And then we also have University of Ghana, in Legon, for your African and diaspora studies. I didn't realize you actually went there first. Look at that. So I just want to big that up because it really relates to the conversation right now, what we're talking about here in terms of your experience in these sciences and the culture. And this is what Planet Restoration exists to do, is to amplify regenerative arts and culture. Let's also be very clear. When we say regenerative, there's a lot of folks writing that terminology, but we mean that to really represent traditional, original peoples' methods and ways of being and living in harmony with the environment. That of itself, it is regenerative. And the idea of generations to come is a regenerative concept. It's true to indigenous people. So we want to put that framing there for folks to understand. It's not the bandwagon of regenerative like we're going to hear a lot more and more in the future, but it is truly the anchor and the root. So welcome, Sonita Singh. Thank you for being here.
Wow, that's a hell of an intro. Hi, everybody. I'm just excited to be
Hey.
here.
Greetings, blessed love.
Especially with my family. This is my family. You guys are very, very, very sacred and dear to me for a long time. Lots of hours spent in meditation and in conversation with this family. So it's a true blessing to have space with you. I'm just honored you called my name.
Hey, thank you. And tell us where you are right now. Where are you physically on the planet?
You jealous, ain't you? So right now, I'm wondering if I can even. I want to pick up this camera. Maybe at some point I'll pick it up. I'm right on the Isle of Cozumel, and I spent the last 2 days pyramid hunting. I'm not quite sure if I'm saying that right. Just resonating with the Mayan knowledge in the space, which the three of you have a really intense connection to and knowledge base of. I actually have focused most of my research in the Vedic technology, and so my understanding now, I'm starting with intuition. So I'm just going to the spaces, connecting energetically to where I am. And then as time goes along, I really want to learn and get that heavy download from you guys to see the synchronicities between the Vedic and the Mayan.
Beautiful. That's important work. And we're really appreciative that you're doing that. And to be specific for folks that are brand new to this, let's get specific about the science, in particular what we're talking about here as far as Ayurvedic science or sciences that do involve pyramidal structures. I want to ask you to kind of help expose us a little bit more to what that actually is and what it's called and kind of the purpose of that.
You asking me? We got so many experts on this. So I'll give you my humble offering, the best that I have at this moment. Obviously, I've been doing this practice quite a while. I can say that some of my knowledge is logical. I've read it from a book, textbook. I've, gone to the spiritual texts and read the spiritual texts. And I would say another part of my knowledge base comes experientially, which is what drew me and connected me to this knowledge. Is I was always taught, believe what you experience. So if I answer the question, I'll answer it from those two veins, so to speak. So as when we think about Agnihotra, the practice of yajna, purification of the atmosphere, using the pyramid, and if we just look at that word alone, pyre, being fire and mid being in the middle, so the fire is in the middle, and recognizing that this particular technology was it comes from the Vedas. We understand the Vedas as Shruti. Shruti is that which was heard. So for thousands of years, the science of the Vedas was never written. It was heard by high consciousness beings and practiced. And many of the practices are not specifically for just the Earth. It's for any planet in any solar system in any galaxy that you're in. So we understand from the third book of the Vedas, the Rig Veda, the first chapter is on Agnihotra. And Agnihotra takes place in a pyramid that's about, I would say, 3-4 inches tall. It's a step pyramid, very close to the pyramids that we find in throughout the world, right? But obviously in this Yucatan Peninsula and throughout the Yucatan. And so what I have experienced that pyramid energy to do is to resonate with cosmic frequencies in a very high level specified way. Each step of the pyramid has a mathematic mechanism. Each angle has a mathematic mechanism, and all of that, I could say, works at those quantum and beyond quantum mechanisms to create an atmosphere that is in alignment with our highest creative forces in all universes and all galaxies. I feel like that covers some bases right there.
Yeah, I definitely
covered all the bases.
Yeah, I think you covered most of them there, actually. I mean,
I feel like that's, like I said, it's the textbook and the experiential, because when I use the pyramid to meditate, what I have access to feels like that expanse. We're looking at those different creative levels and those levels of being and existence, and how do we access that? And so the reason why I wanted to keep it broad, because there are many yatnas, there are different fires. One of the things that Taj was able to do was capture one of our fires, Rudra, that's about 4 hours long, that has a very specific goal. And Bilal started our session with one of the mantras that goes to one of our fires that has a very specific goal. So we think of these as tools for balanced life on the planet, whichever planet you're on.
That's amazing. So in this time of regeneration that we're calling it, right? Tell us more about the worldwide utilization of this practice, of this Ayurvedic science, because you've been teaching people traveling the world for over 25 years. So you've obviously seen a lot. Can you share with us a little bit about where some of the application is, and some of the emphasis, and the types of communities, where you find this being really practiced?
Oh man, you be asking these big old questions. Okay, I'm gonna try to be brief, man. I mean, this is literally like you said, you're talking over 25 years of experience, of humbling experience of people who are truly dedicated their life to this practice. I'm loving that it's a windy up here, so don't mind me. I won't blow away.
That's good. We're hearing the wind. We appreciate it.
Oh, are you hearing it?
Oh, it's okay. It comes and goes. It's fine.
No, I feel bad. Okay,
no,
all
no,
right.
no.
Well, good. Catch that wind, baby.
We got it.
All right. So wow. So worldwide practice. Okay, we're gonna think in space and time, if that's okay with you guys.
Absolutely.
I was taught by someone who was trained by someone the month and the year I was born.
Wow.
So the practice has been in the United States for an incredibly long time, and much of the practice has been carried by people of color, which we need to say that,
Yes.
we always want to make this about, oh, it's Vedic, it's Hindu, it's Indian, or it's yoga, so it must be white people. Pardon all the white people, but listening, that's not where I'm headed with this. But it's important to know that I was taught by people of color, Black men and women in the United States, and by Indians in India. And so when we talk about Agnihotra and who's been doing what and where, we have to acknowledge our ancestors. We have to acknowledge those people who are living, who have gone before us. And we have to acknowledge how this knowledge became promulgated. There are a couple books that trace the information, obviously, back to Paramasakharu Sri Gajana Maharaj, which is a person. We can expand on that, but a person who was charged with resuscitating the Vedas. And in doing so, allowing this planet to sort of stay the wave of pollution, be it energetic pollution, be it actual environmental pollution, all of the many types of energetic fields that are a disturbance or a disease from a perfect, effulgent, vibrational state of being. Many things can be in a perfect state of being, but they aren't always often that way. So I would say that in terms of the teachings that I've been exposed to and who has been teaching, I've been trained about this story from the very beginning. So Paramasat Guru Shikajnan Maharaj got that charge to resuscitate the Vedas, and much of that story is actually embedded in many of the mantras that we use, and gave that charge to two people, average, ordinary people, to carry the information of Agnihotra, one across all of India, and then one across the entire world. And Potar would be the name of the man carrying this knowledge across most of India, and Vasant Paranjape is the person carrying that knowledge across the world. And when I say the world, Sri Vasant, as we know him, has probably visited every country in the world, potentially, that he is able to, and physically able to, more than once. Like multiple global visits to continents, to countries, just to do this work. So I would say that I've known Sri Vasant to travel from the 70s all the way to the time of his death in, I think, around 2010. I'm blanking on the actual, time of death. And so Sri Vasant, most of anyone that you've encountered that teaches Agnihotra learned from him, or learned from people who learned from him. So that was a domino effect. And I've had the opportunity to work in almost 15 countries and teach Agnihotra in 15 countries in Africa and the Caribbean, in Europe, and Southeast Asia, and in the US. And I mentioned the US last because the US is actually like the hardest place to teach.
Right.
I tend to do more of my teaching internationally, and then people here just have to beg, to learn, because it's a lot of work. Yeah. I don't, sorry.
Facts. Let's talk a little bit about Baltimore, because I understand that Baltimore factors in very significantly to particularly the African American and the Black community in its receptivity or appointment, we'll say, with this important work. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think it's so important to the story.
Wow. Man, you're really hitting me on like some heavy anthropology of Agnihotra. I love it. All right, so Baltimore actually goes back. It goes back, maybe even. Everyone is very sensitive about details, and people really. When you're in that yogi space, you're trying to be humble, but it's still important to acknowledge properly who was there and what effort has been done. I will say that I believe in Baltimore, Virginia, in the 70s, a Caucasian man opened a printing press with a Black man. Together, they started printing the very first Satsangs, and Satsangs are, the word Satsang means the holy company. And so a publication of a Satsang is essentially the teachings of Agnihotra, its benefits, its theory, its construct, and it made it more shareable. And so that printing press really became the core of a community that was dedicated to the work of Agnihotra and sharing Agnihotra, not necessarily as a religion, not necessarily as a spiritual system, but more definitively as a weapon against pollution of all types. And yeah, so you're talking, wow, what is that? Almost 60 years ago. That community began, and people actually bought land and started living and breathing Agnihotra, literally, quite literally. And we've got in Baltimore at this point, or in those early days until this point, you've got some really strong families. Jamal Wilson sort of being like the touchstone of an Agnihotra community that has been performing consistently in some of the worst environments, built schools around Agnihotra. Again, continuing that work of publication, of doing and teaching in multiple arenas, such as in hospitals, in jails, in churches, so on and so forth. So yeah, that's sort of it's a long history, but then it branches out all over the United States, and there are groups all over the world, in Peru, in Poland, in Australia, throughout South America. Just incredible amount of dedication and humility to teach and share this work.
Let me ask you one more question. What is a great resource for somebody that you just happen to know of that we could even direct people to? Because there are so many different resources, so many different people who've been practicing, have published websites of a variety. But if somebody was going to get started at the very beginning, and maybe didn't have the benefit of learning directly from somebody like you, where might they go to learn more that could, help, enable them to actually begin their own practice?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if we create this broadcast in a way that's linkable and we can put links there, that would be great. I can give you like a long list of links. I often send people to homa1.com, and the reason I send them there is it's an older website. It isn't oriented towards religion, and that's one thing that I think people get a little hung up on. For me, I'm a scientist. I engage Vedic technology as a scientist, and I enjoy that formulaic A plus B equals C. And so that discipline that it takes to do Agnihotra is minimal, and the practice is very, it's not a lot of work, but getting to C is pretty, infinite. What happens when you do these practices are infinite. So for me as a scientist, leading with any type of what is this spiritual system or what is that spiritual system, I think that's not what the work is. So homa1.com, it's a lot of facts. It's a lot of looking at the past work around Agnihotra, and what I tend to direct people to on that website, they have thousands upon thousands of testimonials, not just of people who have done Agnihotra and had positive impacts on their physical health, their mental health, on their cancers or, supposedly incurable diseases, mental health, addiction issues, so on and so forth. But there are also affidavits from governments all over the world that have done Agnihotra to rid their populations of plant diseases, their I want to say horticulture, agriculture. There's another section on animal health. There's a section on ecology. There's a section on human health. And so there are thousands of testimonials that you can look at and say, okay, the government of Peru has written affidavits here explaining how their economy was saved by doing resonance farming using Agnihotra, and this is how it worked. So these are the things that I like to let people see for themselves. But at the end of the day, we always say that if you do Agnihotra for 90 days, something will happen. Something profound, something that you simply cannot explain, that will let you know how extraordinary this practice is.
That's amazing.
Let me ask you this really quick. And this is a question that I already know the answer to, but just for
this is what I was about to say.
For the benefit of those who are watching, is Agnihotra, is it a daily practice? Is it a weekly practice? Is it a monthly practice? Is it all of the above? For those who are just hearing about Agnihotra for the first time, when it comes to the practice of it, is it intended to be a daily practice, a weekly practice, every other day, once a month?
Correct.
What's the frequency?
So yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's a very important one. Agnihotra is a circadian rhythm. It follows the circadian rhythm. It follows the sunrise and the sunset. And so the way it had been explained to me, at sunrise and at sunrise there's a flood of subtle energies that come to, and I like to preface this way, to the planet that you're on. And it floods energetically, and everyone who's awake and conscious and available at sunrise, they can tell that there's a subtle difference that happens at that moment. And it recedes at sunset, but you can always feel like the recession of it is almost like an intensification of it. And the way I tend to explain Agnihotra is that it's like a radio receiver, and all of the elements that happen at the performance of sunrise is tuning into the frequency of that energetic field that's occurring, that's ebbing, that's surging and ebbing. And it's essentially tuning into it and amplifying that energetic field in your space, a mile radius from where you are and 20 kilometers above where you are. I'm sorry for the conversion issue there. But yeah, so it's a daily practice, and I would say you achieve the most of the benefits by practicing it every single day at sunrise, sunset. We recognize that's not always easy, it's not always practical, but for 25 plus years, I've been able to make it happen one way or another. Excellent visual.
Yeah, it's a classic. That's a classic visual. That's the illustrated version to help us.
I use that in Ghana.
Yeah, there we go. So, what's interesting,
something I definitely want to mention real quick. I have to bring up, last time I saw you, it was by the grace of our great my teacher of Agnihotra, Sri Charles of Shanti Villa. Bless his soul, prayers, blessings to the family. Though, to me, he's such a living spirit. He's one of my gurus, and in the lineage, on that line, to Sri, so I really give thanks for him, and I give thanks for that hub that he created for ones and ones like us to be able to, connect and meet. Yeah, so I have to mention him, and in this type of circle, no doubt, got to bring him forward in honor.
That's how I met you.
I think that's where we actually met.
How I
we
met
met
you.
at Shanti Villa. Yeah.
Yep.
And one thing important to say about Shanti Villa specifically, and just going back to what Taj was asking about frequency, we look at Agnihotra as the primary yatna that is performed to set up the energetic field that Agnihotra creates, or this specific series of yatnas create. At Shanti Villa, we were able to sustain 4 hours fire. I'm sorry, let me rephrase. When I got there to live at an ashram, which was a really phenomenal experience, 15 years, 4 hours of another fire had been performed up until that point. And so that same 4-hour fire had gone, I think, almost another 10 years. So I don't want to speak for Shanti Villa and say exactly how long 4-hour fire goes, but that is like a minimum to see a really extraordinary change in the energetic field of a space that you're in. And anyone who's been to Shanti Villa can attest to that energetic shift. So Bilal's acknowledgement is it goes deeper than just the person, right? That energy in that space allows for an entire shift in consciousness of anyone who comes to that space where that work is done. And so we understand that no matter who, no matter where, using that practice, you have the ability to regenerate, going back to your original theme, to regenerate the earth in a space to its highest energetic form. And to be able to do that and have it be done by people of color, you know, that's important. That's important to me as a Black woman. That's important to the earth.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Absolutely.
For real, for real. And even when I used to research Yogananda and the what is it called? The Kriya Yoga.
Yes.
Like there was always like white people who would be there to give you a mantra on behalf of that lineage, you know? So it was beautiful to be able to receive a mantra from Sri Charles himself, from this strong, you know, mystic lineage is sacred. I give thanks once again.
Ashe. You touched a little bit on the concept of resonance farming, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, because we hear a lot right now about soil regeneration, the whole Kiss the Ground movement, the regenerative agriculture movement that's becoming, again, a very popular theme from the UN on down to the grassroots, right? So in light of that, though, because we're talking about the fact we're restoring planet restoration, these are not new themes. These technologies are not necessarily new. This is ancient traditional knowledge. Now, the application in resonance farming, can you talk a little bit about that? And is that comparative with when we're talking about regenerative agriculture? Can this process heal the soil?
Right. And I have some experience with that, but obviously I feel like I'm talking a lot amongst people who I know are really phenomenal minds and spirits in this work. So thank you for the question. And I know as a group we can answer. I mean, I know you have to understand how much I love and respect these men here, yourself as well, Mikuak. And this is a very important conversation. I don't want to be central to it, and I can only offer the experience that I have had, but it is based in some experience. So yes, I've been to resonance farms in India. We have in Shanti tried to sustain a resonance farm. I have definitely seen like we said, the affidavits from universities and from governments where resonance farming has taken place and has completely shifted the soil, the growing seasons, the amount of produce that can come from the plants, how often you can get yield from the plants, destroying the pest populations, not destroying, I'm sorry. And that's really, okay, I made a mistake, and it's an important mistake to acknowledge. Creating a high divine balance between the plants that would normally grow and the pests that would normally eat them in a higher field, a higher energetic field setting. That doesn't happen as often. And so resonance farming it would seem to many like a miracle if you're not looking at this scientifically. And so if we go back to the definitions of Agnihotra, and if you want to pull back up that visual that you had of how Agnihotra works, resonance is only different in that you have this one pyramid at the center of your land, and at a north, east, west, and south pole, you also have pyramids. underneath the center pyramid, there is a pyramid buried, two pyramids, one pyramid buried under the ground that a specific fire has been done. And then you have two pyramids on top, one where a consistent Homa is being done. That Homa is called Trumakam. And Trumakam has that's that 4-hour fire I was just talking about. And then at sunrise and sunset, Agnihotra is done at the poles. And there are yantras. If you're familiar with a yantra is actually the visual depiction of a mantra. And so Shri yantras are buried in the soil throughout the land. And so if you can imagine these 5 fires creating a energetic field that resonates with each other and then also resonates with the yantras, you can almost visualize energetically how this is like a sacred mathematics to shift not just the prana, but I would say if we look at the quantum mechanics of prana, and maybe even from the center source, the creative source of all things, these are the types of energies that you're tapping into. So you're asking and you're imploring and you're doing the energetic work to realign these atoms, so to speak, these molecules, these cells, these constructs, to align them to their galactic source. Just to bring the conversation back to how you opened.
That sounds like some celestial waters business to me. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. Realign them back to their galactic source. You said a whole lot there. We could just meditate on that for the next few years, actually. Because, that is sort of what we have identified, what we feel and know is happening. There's an alignment back to our galactic source happening right now. That's what the Maya have been tracking. Those pyramids that you're exposing yourself to there are markers of that realignment. And we see it in the celestial bodies, and we understand in the way that the light energy is emitted and transmitted. And as Taj said before, from a particle to a wave, and that the galaxy actually functions in wave cycles, of which we are all particles, but then we also can become waves. Like, it's the idea of going with the flow, right? You become the wave. Exactly. And we see it in nature. It's amazing, and we've also been meditating on this idea that, creation is primarily water based. So we deal with this element of fire, and then it also impacts the water cycles and the water systems of the planet as well, helping it realize its highest potential in that sense. Because I know there have been applications of the ash where we take the ash from the Agnihotra practice and we can ingest it to also reset our own biological cycles. So there are innumerable uses of this amazing tool, this amazing science given to us, by the ancestors, by the elders. So thank you for all of this. It is remarkable. Bilal, you got something? Or Taj?
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I have a question.
No, I was just going to mention real quick. How I remember watching this cartoon of the Ramayana, and like towards the beginning, there's a section where I guess the Ravana ones they're like trying to attack these masters because they're just about to say the mantra, like and they're doing Homa, they're doing the fire, and it's like. So it just showed me like it's an actual, like, I don't want to use the word weapon, though. It's that type of tool that, these forces don't want to see you activate that. They don't, because it actually affects things, it actually activates things. So I just wanted to bring that up for some reason that came to mind.
What I wanted to ask is, first of all, how old is this science? And second of all, the ingredients that are involved in this sacred fire. You've got the pyramid. You've got the cow dung. You've got the ghee, and you have the mantra, or the word sound. And so these four ingredients, what is the interaction which creates this resonance between these four ingredients? What makes these four ingredients coming together create such a powerful resonant impact on the environment? And how old is this sacred science?
I think we're having trouble hearing you, Sonita. Not sure.
Oh, because I put myself on mute because you made me feel so conscious about the wind. Okay. So,
My bad.
right, I'm gonna preface with totally gonna send some of those questions back to y'all because I'm interested in your interpretation. I know I have what I've been taught, but I know that we all are understanding. We're understanding by practicing, and because you all practice, I'm interested too in how you're receiving the information from the ingredients, say it that way. So in terms of age, I mentioned this term, the Vedas being called Shruti. Shruti means that which was heard, and that this knowledge was never written, but for thousands of years it was received by those whose consciousness was high enough to hear that sound. And Mikuak, we talked a bit about receiving information from sound earlier, so I do want to visit that at some point. But getting to the age, the way I tend to explain the age of this science, you're going to bear with me, this will just take a second, I hope you don't mind. I usually use a mantra to explain it. There's a mantra that we do usually before any fire that we, nickname Buswaha. And so I'm going to share a little bit of that with you just to help contextualize. Buswaha ganariye idam namama buaswaha wayue idam namama swaswaha soryaya idam namama boro buaswaswaha prajapataye idam namama. So Bu is the planet that you're on. Buwa is the atmosphere that surrounds the planet that you're on. And Swa, this is my favorite one. Y'all ready? Swa is as far as the light from the sun of your solar system reaches. And so that, for me, gives me a little more sense that we're not working in the general timeline that we're used to understanding. We're working in a timeline of those people who see far beyond the phenomenal realm. And that isn't even, that's just those, that Bu, Bua, and Swa. So getting into Wayewe and Prajapataye even takes things into another realm. So I tend to think of the age of this knowledge as infinite, kind of originating at the very beginning of our creation, and that it's our job to increase our consciousness to the point of understanding that singularity. Now, to the ingredients conversation, I'm going to try to do this very quickly because it's just so interesting that I'm here at the pyramids, and part of the story of the pyramids and this concept or construct of human sacrifice at the pyramids, understanding that it is a bastardization of certain things. So this idea that maybe in the early times of the, what we would say is the evolution and the devolution of human consciousness on the planet, that there is a period of evolved consciousness, what we refer to as yugas. Yugas, ages where consciousness increases to God consciousness and then decreases to the lowest consciousness. And we understand that in those dispensations, sometimes avatars come to the planet to correct the consciousness of mankind. And one thing that we understand about the Buddha is that the Buddha came to stop sacrifices that killed things, because that sacrifice, human or animal or otherwise, actually putrefied the atmosphere as opposed to sending nutrients or prana into the atmosphere. And so by stopping animal sacrifice in the period of the Buddha, we created, we stopped a type of pollution. But then after the Buddha came Kalki Avatar. And Kalki Avatar is, if you're not familiar with the term, an avatar is like a perfect being among perfect beings. And generally, again, they have a job to do. And so Kalki Avatar, their job was to destroy pollution on the planet. And so they brought back this concept of a sacrifice. We can probably term that something differently, but that sacrifice did not kill anything. It used natural organic ingredients that were readily available, but still ended in a very high resolution energy. So Taj, I want to kick that question back to you just a little bit, because you're teasing me. What is your experience with the dung, the ghee, the rice, the copper, and the shape of the pyramid as you interact with them?
Well, and also, I guess the fire would be another element as well, you know. But I would say that, you know, they represent the elements. Like, okay, the dung to me represents the element of earth. And then you have the fire represents the fire. Then you have the mantra represents the breath, you know, and sound vibration. And then you've got the ghee, you know, which is, I don't know, to me kind of like maybe like a nutrient, you know, maybe a nutrient. But it seems like these are nutrients because the dung, you know, contains nutrients. The ghee also contains nutrients. And then you have the, you know, the human element, which is the mantra, the sound vibration, the, you know, playing into it as well. And all of these things coming together, you know, to me, kind of says that it really emphasizes our connection, you know, as human beings with nature. Because, you know, bringing all of these elements together, what makes it complete is the human interaction, performing this sacred practice. And, you know, it really just kind of like brings the awareness of the human being back to its connection with the environment and with nature, you know. And to me, I think that that's a key to it all, because I mean, when you look at it, we are the ones who are destroying the atmosphere and destroying nature and polluting nature. And so when it comes to healing the atmosphere, we're also a key component, a key ingredient into bringing about the healing of the atmosphere as well, you know. And so I think that for me, that's a really important aspect. It's just like, you know, the merging, the unity of bringing man's consciousness back to his connection with the environment, his connection with nature, and his impact upon the environment. And so I think that that's where the magic really happens, is when we become aware, you know, when we align our awareness with our connection, you know, with the mother. Because I mean, really, in truth, everything that we do, our entire lives are is impacted by our connection with nature. The house that we live in, the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the water we use to bathe, everything is always pointing back to our connection with nature. But we always seem, even though we're so dependent upon the environment, even though we're so dependent upon it, we always seem to lose sight of our connection. And I think that in our ignorance is where the degradation, the destruction, the negative impact, you know, starts to take effect. But in our awareness is where the healing and the restoration begins to bloom once again.
That's just beautiful.
That's kind of how I see it.
That was wonderfully said, Tosh. Bilal, you have any reflections there to the same question as a Agnihotra practitioner as you are?
I would just say I feel like there's a richness in the brown rice. Like there's a richness when it's burnt. Like there's a rich feeling to the smell, and like they say, burn. From what Sri Charles used to teach me, to keep the full length rice, you know, not to have the chipped off rice. So that just speaks to the holistic nature of it and the organicness, and, you know, so just that richness of the rice, and then the richness of the ghee, like, even health wise, from what I'm told or from what I've researched, ghee is very rich in some really healthy things or whatever. So yeah, the richness of those things, and then the dung makes me think of, like, it actually brings my mind to Hathor, you know, the goddess Hathor, and the sacredness of the cow, you know, and it's like you can smell like the richness when it burns as well. And that richness, all of the richness of those three in the air, it's like when it's burning, you can tell, like, okay, this was needed. Like, this is nutrients for the atmosphere, you know, for the auric field as well. And even with my children, when they were younger, when I would burn Agnihotra, like babies crying in the house or whatever, it's like the vibe would start to settle, you know, and these are things I've witnessed as a scientist with these sciences, you know, though. So yeah, all of that richness together in the atmosphere. And then as far as the fire, like I feel in a lot of cases it helps first activation, because when I'm able to tune into that pulse, I start to feel my first eye like really activating, especially when I start to get in the flow and really do it frequently. So yeah, there's a lot of key elements there, Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I got to say, this has been a very rich conversation, and I really, really appreciate love you being with us, Sonita. This has really been fantastic, and I want to encourage people to follow you on IG, follow your adventures out there as you're traveling currently and throughout the Yucatan and Mexico. Very, very sacred space. In fact, Taj and I had the benefit of being there together years ago in Palenque. We were in Chiapas, so not Yucatan, but the neighboring state in Palenque, which is a powerful, powerful place connected to the pyramid structures. Very, very sacred place. And so if you do get a chance to visit Palenque, I highly encourage it. If not on this journey, then another for sure. Those pyramids there are as similarly very important to the entire cosmovision of the traditional Maya, the cosmic galactic Maya. And so I trust you're going to continue to enjoy your travels throughout the Yucatan. Are you having any other sites you plan to visit?
Well, actually, it's interesting that you asked, because I was interested in you guys' experience and how your experience may have intertwined with your Agnihotra experience. So the group of you have an incredible knowledge base on that pyramidal energy and that mathematical energy. So is that okay to ask for you guys to share your sort of synchronicities? And again, for me, experience bodes higher than philosophy and knowledge base. What did you learn? What did you see in those spaces that enhanced your knowledge of the practice of Kriya Yoga, which is how we refer to this work, as the total unfoldment of Kriya Yoga?
Any of you guys want to take easy question? Simple.
I mean, for me, my experience down in Palenque and in Teotihuacan, it was just amazing. It was like, well, first I would say Teotihuacan was like, to me, it felt like being on another planet. That's what it felt like. It felt like I was on another planet. It was just, I mean, it's hard to even describe it in words, but it felt like I was on Mars, or just like on another planet. It's just so different from everything else that's surrounding it. That site, it's just so different from everything else surrounding it. It just seems like it's just like from somewhere else, and the vibe there is just different. It's just the resonance is just different. In Palenque, it was like, it felt like being in an enchanted forest. It was like a pyramid complex in the midst of an enchanted forest, and the vibration, the frequency was just like, the best word I could use to describe it was just magical. It was just like, you could just feel and sense the magic in the air. And it felt like it felt like those structures had a big part to play in the resonance that was present, the magic that was present. And I also felt as though there were things there that we weren't seeing, you know? Maybe there were structures there that we weren't seeing that also played a part in the resonance. You know, and that's kind of like a sense that I kind of got while I was there. It was like there's something more to this equation here that we're not seeing, you know. Maybe it's underground, but something that's playing into creating the magical field of resonance that we're feeling and experiencing here. And I'm sure Mikuak can speak to that as well. And then you had these pools of water all throughout the forest that were just like these crystal pools of water, and just, oh my God, it was crazy, you know? And so Mikuak, maybe you'd like to elaborate on that, but I mean, to me, it was next level.
Yeah, there's so much to that. And I think the thing about the fire that I appreciate love is it definitely sensitizes us to that which is not mundane. It helps open our perception into higher worlds, because it literally causes our molecular structure to vibrate higher. And I think Sonita has a comment. Is it fire time?
Oh, I didn't raise my finger for a comment, but that was exactly what I was going to say. Bilal, your comment about Mikuak, don't lose where your thought is. Hold your thought. Bilal, your comment about Shanti, that was part of our training while we were there, was to be able to see those entities and see those energies and see those things that were unseen. They're there for those who can perceive them, but it's the discipline that of making your vibration high enough to see it. Shruti, that which was heard, that which is seen, that's unseeable. Mikuak, I'm so excited about what you're about to say.
Well, that's just it. It's the vibrational shift that performing the fire, even once, anybody who begins that process, even to do the fire one time, you feel the difference. Anybody that I've ever introduced the fire to or that I've known is practicing, they all speak to that first moment and I feel the energy around me now, even as I speak about it, because I'd also like to say that we not only practice the fire, we become the fire. So over time, as we refine our own field, as we match our energy with the energy of the fire, with what it actually contains or transports, we become the walking fire. And I know I've had experiences where I've wanted to keep a consistent fire going, and I just, for whatever reason, just wasn't able to keep it going. But then I'd be reminded, that we are actually the fire. We actually, once you become involved in that particular work, obviously the more that we can ground it and maintain the discipline, the higher the impact we'll have, although it definitely has an effect. And I mean, from experiences with the community in Jamal and Baltimore down to Sri Charles and the community in Shanti Villa, and then the fact that we were burning the fire in Palenque with Mama Audrey, as she was keeping the fire, she was initiated by Sri Charles and keeping the fire on their trek around the world. They were doing this peace walk around the world, burning the Homa every day. The Agnihotra fires throughout the day. So at the Pyramid Center in Palenque, and like Taj said, at the movement, we would do our art shows. We would be sure that we could say it would overlap sunset. So in the nightclubs or the venues where we were doing our arts presentations, we would burn the Homa. And it was amazing because it uplifted the vibration for everybody. It was such a powerful yet subtle experience. They would come into this atmosphere. They didn't know what happened. They might catch the smell on the air or whatever. And it's such a sublime fragrance also that it's just what to say, but its effect is that it elevates everything in its vicinity automatically. And I think that's kind of where we find ourselves now, which is why the fire is so relevant and continues to be so important as we make this transition as a planetary whole. like with more people out here holding the fire in various places around the world, all of it has a compounding effect to ultimately, in my opinion, help really raise the vibration of the planet itself. Because a lot of the information coming in from these other worlds, and also to speak to the idea of time, as you were saying, Sonita, but the fact in the interdimensional parallels, the time is immaterial. It's more a matter of your rate, your frequency, your vibration. It's not about duration. It's about the quality of vibration. And from that perspective, then we do become aware and become exposed to the existences in higher vibratory levels. And the fire is a vehicle for that perception as well. And it's also a neutralizing field that, as Bilal was indicating, when anybody, like with his children and feeling all the energy of, being a child, but kind of comes for fire time, it grounds the energy, or even creates an impenetrable force field for negative energy can't even impact you. And so I think it's a powerful practice to have in one's life. The implications are manifold. There's really no limit to the implications or the benefits that can happen. I mean, today is an intro in many ways, and we've shared a lot of things, and certainly want to invite people to visit homa1.com as a resource, and also visit Shanti Villa Institute. Okay, and we'll be sure to publish it on the channel.
I'll send the list. Yeah. And I want to just take 1 second. I know you need to close, but go ahead. So just one thing.
Just two masters. I'm sorry. Two masters that came to mind while you all were speaking was which I feel like are key guides for me. Though Sai Baba of Shirdi supposedly was known to always have a fire, and like that was his center for satsang. He was known to be having satsangs around a fire. So that's just to say that fire in itself has a sacred vibe. And then the other master that I pretty much hold the highest is Valar, Swami Ramalinga. Excuse me. When he transcended, and took his body with him, he left a fire, and he was like, this fire, this is that eternal light, of Sangha, of the truth, and it just, that fire in my mind, it's like, that's an eternal fire, and that fire that he left is like a representation on earth of actual spiritual eternal fire that exists, So those were just some things that came to mind while you were speaking. I was like, yeah,
just a little thought, popped in my mind. That's how we think. We just be thinking, little thoughts. So I really just wanted to, I realize you guys want to close, and you just have that vibe right now, Mikuak. Obviously we could do this literally for 5 hours without taking a breath. There's something that I wanted to mention. We talked about it just for a second earlier, and it's the sound, so really taking the practice, and looking at their elements to the practice that move you and change you and rearrange your atoms. And it just going back to what you were saying about the vibronic and energetic shifts that occur inside of you. When you do any spiritual practice, this particular practice has its impacts. And, I think one thing that's always important to say, just as a disclaimer, yoga means the yoke. It means the pathway to God consciousness, and there are many ways to do it. So there's no one way. There are just, chutes and ladders, right? There are lots of ways, many pathways to the path. But for me, and for many years within my practice, attuning to the audible life stream has been made extremely easy using Agnihotra. So if we think of the sound of Om, we understand kind of theoretically that Om is all things, that from the creative center of all things, you know, in the way that Americans or Western society thinks of the Big Bang, and that the Big Bang is that the universe is in a constant state of expansion and creation. And so the Vedas speak to that creative force at the center of all things as a constant, again, that singularity, but a manifold singularity. And so that you can actually hear that. And you don't necessarily hear it with your ears, but you hear it and perceive it. And for me, Agnihotra has always made that sound very accessible. And that is just one part of turning yourself into the fire. Like you were saying, you are the fire, like connecting yourself to the audible live stream and sort of diving into it. Like, you know, people are saying, how hard is it for you to meditate? Sit still and calm your mind. Like for me, I don't meditate per se. I go into the audible live stream and work to create my body's vibration to align with the audible live stream's vibration, which allows me access in many ways to multiple dimensions. I'm sorry, I'm using my hands a lot. It's a lot of kung fu happening here. But that's one thing that I want to say in terms of this evolutionary science. We have this, you know, this construct, and you know, when Taj was mentioning the pyramids, you have that energy going down into the earth, and what happens when you send that energy going up towards the cosmos? You know, it's always been for me a science that the object of the effort has been exponentiated inside of me, inside of my mind, inside of my consciousness, inside of my everyday reality. And so, yeah, it's amazing that we get to talk about that. But I didn't want to leave the conversation without mentioning something to me that seems very practical, a very practical bridge between the spiritual element and the physical element.
Absolutely.
Just thoughts.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much. The one thing that did come to mind, we were talking about the magic of Palenque, and you know, I was there with Taj. We had some interesting experiences. And you know, and you know, and a part of it relates to what we're talking about here with the holy cow, right? And the magic mushrooms that the cows also somehow seem to provide, that expand our perceptions of the variable layers of the magic that happen in a place like Palenque, for example. I'll leave it at that, and then maybe that's for another conversation for another show. But just to say, these sacred elements, these medicines, they are true medicines, and you know, they come to your aid in the most uncanny ways at the most unexpected times. And that was quite a bit about our experience in Palenque. But again, that's a conversation. We have photos and everything. We have amazing pictures from the springs he's talking about. One of my favorite images of you playing the harp, I mentioned it to Bilal the other day, Taj, is you playing the harp in that waterway there. I took that picture. It was just unbelievable.
Wow.
That moment.
Let me say this too, that the experience in Palenque was magical even before the shrooms.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me just say, before and after.
Well, considering the direction things took when we ingested the shrooms, yes, that was facts. We encountered the park police. It was an interesting thing, and you know, it was interesting. Let's just say that I almost ended up going to San Cristobal, you know, in a way that I would not have wanted to visit San Cristobal. So, by the grace, and always and only by the grace, you know, we were intervened. We had intervention, divine intervention on our behalf, to the tune that we were able to pay the exact amount of bribe money that they required of us to prevent from sending me to jail. So that happened. And I have to say that it was part of the grace of the masters and the performance of the Agnihotra in the community throughout our initiation there, and all of that combined. So by the grace. But another conversation for another time.
Yeah, that's story time around the fire.
That exactly. Swami Ramalinga vibes.
After the fire. We don't speak during the fire. After the fire.
After the fire for the conversation. We hold the space. Exactly. Focus on the fivefold path. The fivefold path. So, oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. And we're excited. We invite you to stick around. We have a couple of more things, little tidbits of business we want to share with the audience out there about our event coming up this Earth Day, April 22nd. Inviting everybody out there to tune in via our YouTube channel. If they visit youtube.com/Planet Restoration, all one word, they'll find our broadcast from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on the East Coast, this Earth Day, April 22nd. And there's a lot of activation happening around that as well. So it's going to be quite a phenomenal event. And we are calling this event Align with Earth. I've heard that word align come up a couple of times. So Align with Earth, awareness and love inspires growth naturally. And that's what we're promoting and putting out there. And then we also, you got an Agni coming up 4 minutes after the hour, soon come. Well, I tell you what, maybe we'll do this. We'll go a little bit longer because I think it's a very special thing. If you don't mind sharing the evening Homa there from Cozumel, of all places, that would be beautiful.
Sure.
And we'll go to a song real quick. We'll bring the song in while I know you're going to get prepared for the fire and everything. So we'll do that. We'll cut to the song. We'll come back, talk a little bit more about the event. And then we'll bring you back in with the fire. So thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and cut to another song that does feature Taj Crown. The Bilal was recommended that we bring into the show today. And I'm super excited to play this. It's actually a song I produced back in the year 2011. And that Taj wrote and recorded to an amazing epic song. So happy to be able to share that with the folks today. And so thank you to everybody out there tuning into our vibe. And again, you're on PR1328 Live. We'll be right back with you in Lakesh.
And I wait for that day when you reveal your face, and everything will change. Everything will change. What would it be like? Maybe love at first sight. I often dream of the day you arrive. The greatest day of my life. And you're touching me so deep. I'm feeling so free. You make me think of how small we all are. Yeah, compared to eternity. I'm a million miles away from across the stars to make you care, to reveal what I could bear. Forward from that time, everything will change. Everything will change. Every night we talk underneath the stars. Can you hear my thoughts traveling through space? And my heart reaches out to you every day. You came down in a spacecraft. It was our first contact. You took me aboard and together we went exploring the galaxy. A million miles away from across
All right. Some high resonance vibes there. It's kind of unbelievable to think that song was made 10 years ago, right? Wow.
Wow.
10
Wow.
years ago. And I remember when I
That's
sent you that
crazy.
track, you came back with that lyric and the whole, I'm like, what kind of experience did you have with that song? Because it's like you channeled that thing, man. I had no concept for that idea. Like, I just gave it to you and, you know, had the instrumental. Big up to my man Sam on the guitar, Telectone project, but you went in.
That's one of my favorite songs right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's
one of those things, man.
Ahead of its
You
time.
know, sometimes you're just in the vibe, you know, and it just kind of, it takes the wheel. And so I just kind of went along with it, and that's the result.
Yeah, nah, no doubt. And I was inspired to kind of create that little video just to try to give some vibes to it and just reflect the Olmec and the ancestors and all the places we've been on the planet. And just the fact that we're actually galactic beings. Like, let's just get clear, you know, this is why these sciences are a part of who we are. And I think, again, that song being 10 years old, it's like way ahead of its time. And to some degree that now it's like, now there's a readiness for it. There's kind of an invitation to share that vibration further, wider. So we know that we have Sonita. She's kind of off screen, setting up, preparing for the evening Agnihotra, which is such a precious gift that we get to bring to the audience right now here live, with her performing the evening Agnihotra in Cozumel, the island of Cozumel, Mexico. So that's a very, very precious moment. And again, we definitely want to big up our producer, Shelly, who's super helpful behind the scenes here, just keeping us on track.
Yeah,
big up Shelly. Thank you so much. And she's a super tremendous help with the Earth Day event we have coming up. I'm going to bring that to the screen real quick for the family just to check it out. So y'all can go and tune in again on April 22nd. We're going to have a major Earth Day celebration called Align with Earth. And, you know, we're honored to bring this forward to the folks. And so here's just a little bit of flavor for it. And we invite people to visit our sites online, social media. They can find us at planet_restoration on IG, as well as they can find us at facebook.com/planetrestoration. Our website is planetrestoration.info. As they can see there on the flyer, on the poster here. We want to shout out UNIFY, really grateful for their support with this event. We also want to acknowledge the work of Ruben Ginas, one of our collaborators, a primary collaborator with us out here doing this calendar work for a long, long time, way in the trenches with that. We want to big up Sustainable Human, which is a media duo, husband and wife, making some really important media to help generate a shift in consciousness. And the folks at earthday.org, who are probably one of the largest advocacy environmental activist networks on the planet, born out of the original Earth Day in 1970. And so they're doing a big thing on Earth Day as well, that we'll be pulling in some moments from their broadcast. In particular, when they pull in the Pope, we're going to actually go live to their broadcast and bring the Pope into our conversation, and then have a woman named Dr. Barbara Wallace, Nana Ohema, who is professor at Columbia University, who for the longest time has been working on an emphasis of the apology for the papal bulls and getting the Pope to acknowledge and denounce the papal bulls, which gave rise to the colonization of all the lands. So I think there's no better day than Earth Day, in particular, to highlight this fact for original peoples on the planet, and that this is an imperative for moving forward generally as a human family. So we want to make that conscious to folks out there as well on Earth Day during Align with Earth events. So it's going to be a very special situation. So I'm really excited that we can bring that to the world.
And I want to shout out our sector over here in Atlanta, Mama Moringa, Mama Kali, and Fleek of Nature, my brother Essex, our brother Essex, and all the work that he's doing and we're doing, and that we have planned coming forward as well. So
right on.
It's a strong family.
It's a family affair par excellence.
I was wondering if there's a quick moment, if it's possible, for me to share my screen for a second.
Okay.
Okay.
I think you can do it. Let me pull you into the main window here.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Let me know when you're ready.
Let's see here. Okay, I am ready. Okay, so let me see. Let me just share my full screen here. Entire screen. Oh, okay. So I just want to share with you all a small excerpt of my book here. And it applies with the fire, as you will see here. Just to start out, okay. Sri Gajanan Maharaj is recognized as the Kalki avatar, according to the ancient scriptures. It is said that a divine incarnation will manifest on the planet to destroy Kalka, meaning pollution, recite the Vedas, and reestablish Satya Dharma, the eternal religion. Right? So this goes on to speak of the 5 pillars that he brought forth. Yanya, Dana, Tapa, Karma, Swajaya. All right, and I'll just run through them. I'm not going to go in depth, though. Yanya is the first principle of the 5-fold path. It is the process of atmosphere purification with the agency of the fire element. Yanya involves the offering of specific organic substances into the fire, accompanied by chanting of mantras and nurturing of the feeling of total surrender to the will of the Almighty. So that's an ingredient. That's a key ingredient as well. Done. Excuse me. Done is the second aspect of the 5-fold path. It means sharing of one's assets in the spirit of service and humility. Dan develops a feeling of non-attachment to worldly possessions. Thus, it is a great aid for unburdening and relieving stresses of the mind. Okay, which in Islam is like another one of the pillars of Islam, giving of your charity. Okay, Tapa. Tapa is the third aspect of the 5-fold path of happy living. Tapa is a self-imposed discipline over body, mind, and speech. Tapa is the mental and intellectual fire burnt by continuous and strenuous effort, in which the 6 crocodiles, passion, anger, attachment, and envy, greed, etc., harass the mind. Okay, so these are the disciplines that we impose on ourselves, out of responsibility, self-responsibility. Okay, karma. Karma is the 4th aspect of 5-fold path of the 5-fold path of Vedas, and that's what Sri came to do. He came to resuscitate the Vedas and bring it forth once again. So, okay, karma is the 4th aspect of the 5-fold path of Vedas. Karma means rigid action performed without attachment. Its purpose is self-purification. Okay, so right action, cause and effect is the universally accepted elementary law of physics. Right action naturally begets good fruits. Okay, so that speaks of karma. And then Swajaya, which speaks of Yeshua, how he says, do unto others as you would like to be done unto. Okay, Swajaya, or you could say Swadhyaya, is the fifth aspect of the fivefold path. The word Swadhyaya means from the combination of two Sanskrit words, swa, self or pertaining to self, and adyaya, study. Hence, it means self-study for the attainment of liberation. Okay, so it's the question, who am I? You know? So I just wanted to go over those because this is what Sri brought as the resuscitation of the Vedas, you know, for us on a mystic level.
All right, B, she's live right now doing the mantra
So,
too, by the way.
That's what's up. Yeah, and by synchronicity, I'm sealed up.